The following Let's Play has been rated perfectly fine to watch. Any attempts to break the game are for entertainment value only. However, if any typos happen to be found... Hello everyone! Welcome to Not This Game. The reason that I'm having Kirby's Dream Land 2 on right now is I want to show off a bit more of how the Super Game Boy works before we continue more Donkey Kong. First off, this is how your typical Super Game Boy game is going to look. They pick one color, pretty much, and overlay the entire screen with it. I'm not a particular fan of this method. I think it's kind of lazy, and Donkey Kong shows how you can take more than one color and apply it to the screen, which you would expect it to, because Donkey Kong was pretty much the flagship game of the Super Game Boy. In fact, if I recall, it actually came with the Super Game Boy. So that's why it's able to be as fancy as it is, because they wanted to show off what the Super Game Boy was really capable of. And this game here basically just takes the screen, usually, and it's like they put a plastic color film over the whole screen. Speaking of, I mentioned in the big city that the way they handle putting colors on these old Game Boy games is basically they take the black and white colors and put a color overlay around it. So if I do this, and if you take a look at the blast, you'll notice that the blast is not one color. It sort of takes on the colors of the save files around it. So that should give you an idea of how the color overlays work. But there's an even better way of handling this. And what is that better way? By breaking the game, of course. So let me just carefully pull out the cartridge while the game is still on. Ah, it worked. This is my second attempt at that. The first time it sort of crashed the whole thing. And then I'll put in this game carefully. There we go. So if I go in here, you can see the color overlays in effect. By the way, I totally would not recommend actually doing this. For one, it might mess up how the game controls. I mean, look at this, I can't jump very high. But as you can see, the color overlay is still in effect. That's because the Super Game Boy... I'm gonna die. Yep. But Super Mario Land 2 is not a Super Game Boy game, and so whenever I put it in, it did not give any commands to the Super Game Boy. And so the Super Game Boy is still using the color things that was on Kirby's Dream Land 2 before I pull it out. So that's how it actually works. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing. Oh hey, I made it over it! I'm going to have to do a lot of editing on this because I have a lot of stumbling and I'm still on a time limit. Speaking of time limits, now that I've shown you how this basically works, let's go ahead and start Donkey Kong some more. Alright, we're back to this now. Oh, by the way, the reason I didn't use Donkey Kong for that demonstration is switching out the cartridges while the system is turned on will delete your save files. Which is another reason why you don't want to actually try it yourself. I demonstrated it for you, now you don't have to do it. Also, before we start, this won't take long, before we start, I was thinking, it may be a long time before I do another game on the Super Game Boy. I don't have any on my to-do list. So I'm thinking I should totally show off the rest of these borders here. And so for the rest of this game, I'm going to dedicate each world to a specific border. So we're on a ship, and I'm thinking that on the ship we're going to be having some wacky hijinks on the high seas. And so, we're going to have the wacky border. There we go. Do I have to... Yeah, I got that said already. Alright, let's start on 3-1. We've already lost a lot of time on this video explaining stuff.
Well, this level's looking kind of dull. Hey, weren't we, under a ship? Oh wait, I guess we are under the ship. You can see the rudder down there. Level designs are going to get pretty interesting from this point on, actually. Now that I think about it. You'll see why in a couple levels. Or maybe in the next video. I know at a certain point, things are going to become rather interesting. For example, that was probably a bad decision. Oh well, I still made it. Oh, here's one reason why the level designs won't get interesting. I have to hop on these guys to travel across the spikes. Let's take a faster route. And get that guy across. I don't really have to get down there in a specific amount of time. I just needed to get that guy onto the spike so I can ride him over to the other place. You know, here. This is one of those instances where the door is right at the beginning of the stage and you have to go out hunting for the key. Oh, that reminds me. I was told that whether you get the slot machine or the roulette depends on how much time you have left on the level. Like, even in odd numbers. I forget which is which, so we're going to have to remember to look for that whenever I finish this level. 3-2. Oh, here's a couple new enemies. That guy pushes you. That guy also pushes you. And those crabs down there, well, they suck. They have a long-reaching arm. Let me see if I can demonstrate it. Yep, there it is. And I died trying to dodge it. I think that's my first death since stage 2 of the game. My first non-intentional death. Dying will not be helpful in this scenario because I wasted like 4 minutes explaining stuff. Ha, you didn't get me. Get away from you. Key's up there, alright. So, this is where timing is going to be key. What you need to do is not go as fast as you can, because otherwise you'll just bypass the key. Although in this case I wanted to bypass the key because I wanted to get up here. Alright, the rest of this level shouldn't take too long. Alright, so let's not go as fast as possible. That was not fast as possible, but it was still too fast anyway. Try this again. 2, 3, 4. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And I just have to avoid this guy. Apparently his claw counts as an enemy because I got points for jumping over it. Okay, I have 117 seconds. So does odd number get the roulette or the slot machine? It gets the slot machine. It's kind of funny. I've owned this game since it released and I never knew that the how much time affected that. Well, you gotta admit that this was pretty impressive. I got the Donkey Kong and the Super Game Boy same year they released. I'm not entirely sure if it was the same day, probably not. If I remember correctly, I had to pretty much ask my parents in order to get it. But I've had it since year 1, which was 1994, which was a wonderful year, by the way. By the way, you have to press left in order to get across that. But anyway, 1994, wonderful year. It had the Super Game Boy, and it had Donkey Kong, and it had the Lion King. It had gargoyles. I didn't want to hit that again. Did anybody pay attention to which of those doors up there Pauline was screaming from? Actually, let's get rid of you guys. We got... what the... Hello, glitch. course I'd find a glitch. Why wouldn't I find a glitch? Alright, I'm pretty sure it's one of the left doors. This should give you an idea of how mean the game developers in this game are going to be when they start using more than one door. Only one of them is real. What was I saying? What was I talking about? I was talking about the year this released. Oh yeah! All this time, and this game still works. My save files are still there, and the battery is still working. I must have done a really good job taking care of this game. Oh boy, here we go. Let me get through this level real quick. Now what does he do? Oh yeah, he controls the door over there. Oh, I know. I want to get those not dropping down to me. Oh wait, in fact, I want to do this. Go ahead and lift that back up. And then when I do this, he can't bring that wall back down. Then I do this to open the gate over there. Apparently I didn't need to wait for him to open that up so I could block it, because he didn't try unblocking it. Oh, figures. Well, now I gotta wait. Good thing I didn't have to wait long. And that's the end of the level. And everything suddenly disappears whenever he sees me. I guess the platforms got scared because Donkey Kong was aware of everything all of a sudden or something. I don't know. You gotta love these cutscenes. By the way, in case it's not obvious, the amount of 1-ups you get is based on how much total time you have. A 1-up for every 100 points, plus whatever is left over. So that's the end of those levels, and just in time. I'm probably getting a little bit too close to the time limit here. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I had to sped things up. Anyway, next time we're going to finish this sip. I'll see you then. And what is that better way? By breaking the game, of course. So I'll just pull out the game cartridge while the system's still on. I would not recommend trying that, by the way. Because sometimes it doesn't work.